Yeah, sure. I'm Andrew Grosser, or Andy. I'm the CTO of Sourcetable. We are the world's first AI spreadsheet, and we have thousands of users. Um, and yeah, it's nice to be able to chat with the team at Eventual because we were able to use them 2 years ago when we started getting into troubles with DuckDB, and they've saved us a lot. So it's nice to be able to see them grow, and yeah, very excited to be here.
Cool. I love to get into those details, but can you tell me about like what the scale of data is like? I mean, first of all, what is the product exactly, and what's the data with?
Sure. So like unlike Excel and Google Sheets, and now Anthropic, so it's Anthropic's sort of a plugin inside Excel. We have almost like a vertically integrated stack where we've got a data lake underneath, which is different from just, a couple of cells and tables. We also connect to any service online. So like we're able to connect to HubSpot or your bank or stock exchanges to make trades. And we've got all of that's native AI based inside a spreadsheet. So we really see the spreadsheet as just a UI or user experience flow which people can understand, like everybody can understand. So 2 billion people use spreadsheets, probably more people use spreadsheets than toilet paper in the world. Uh, and they're pretty ubiquitous. And so we really wanted to make sure that humanity was in a good place for when AI was going to start, potentially taking over. And so we want to be able to like help people with what they know, get the most out of AI, and that's really our mission.
Can you say more about that? Like when AI takes over, or like I guess if AI takes over.
Yeah, sure. Well, I see that, like AI is already taken over. I wouldn't say necessarily whole jobs, but at least partial jobs, especially in the software development community. Like um I can now do 10 people's jobs or maybe 100 people's jobs, whereas before I used to be able to do it like maybe one or 10, depending on the day. And so it's I think it's going to be a tougher time for juniors, but also juniors are going to be also a lot more capable. So um, yeah, I really don't know where the world's going in terms um, of AI. But I do know that, like drivers' jobs are going to get taken by Waymo and automated cars, and like radiologists are probably going to get slowly taken over by machines because they're probably going to be more accurate over time. And it seems like software developers, lawyers, and anybody who's in the service work and the intelligence kind of community, or like knowledge workers, will be affected by this. And I think that we might all get 10 times more efficient, which is really what I'm hoping Sourcetable will enable people to do. And it's not just kind of like a chat where you just kind of bleed out your heart to this thing that is it's almost like a one-way thing. Uh, the spreadsheet being two ways, so you can talk with it and then refer back to it over time, and work with something that's um not just impermanent. So it's gonna be there for forever. So yeah, no, yeah, we're super excited by our potential capacity to influence people. We've built tens of thousands of tools behind Sourcetable. So imagine if there's different AI jobs or agents, or tools or skills or functions, is depending on what kind of interest that you might have. But basically, before MCP came out, we started developing our own MCP internal system. And so we've built tens of thousands of tools for people. And I used to work at a hedge fund, and so I've built about 10,000 financial tools. So if you're interested in trading or finance or anything like that, you can just ask Sourcetable to do things, and it will act like a hedge fund manager, or it will act like a hedge fund analyst or hedge fund risk expert. So yeah, there's a lot of things we do under the hood, and we'll be continuing to add to these over time, so people can have more specific dialogues with people that they need advice from or with, that will help them be 10 times more capable. And I truly believe that. Yeah, that's what we're doing. Well, we've got people in. I won't say their names, but we've had people across the world who have written their entire PhDs on Sourcetable in under a week, and they used us to do all of the research and analysis and production of the paper and the code and all of that stuff in under a week, which is typically in some countries it's a 7-year exercise. So I'm super proud of what we've been able to achieve and help other people to achieve. So yeah, and underneath all that, we use Daft, which is great. So yeah.
Right. That's good to hear. And I'll definitely get into that, but I'm curious about that PhD example. Under a week, that seems really fast.
Yeah, so somebody was taking like they were doing lab experiments and then they had accumulated a lot of data. And then they really weren't, I think they were a good lab tech, but they weren't necessarily good at writing code. Or I'm sure that they knew what they were looking for. Um, but basically we just ingested all the data and then pointed out using different graphs and charts and analyses automatically for them what results they had and then what the results they had achieved. And so they didn't really need to do any of that. All they needed to do was take the information from the experiment output and then just put that into Sourcetable. And then what was the result was a PhD, as far as I'm
Wow.
told. And I think I don't know how many companies have been quoted as or cited within PhD submissions, but where we were definitely included as part of the citations in the submission, which
Nice.
is pretty fun. So yeah.
I mean, talk about ROI, right?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, and that was so. Yeah, so we've had some really interesting use cases of the system. We've got like lots of people who are using it for just operating business. We've got people who are running options trades and predicting market fluctuations, and we've got somebody who manages um, their farms and when to pick their avocados and all that kind of cool stuff. So like we've got as you know, as a spreadsheet would, we've got lots of users and use cases and lots of problems that we're solving day to day, which is great.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I would imagine you end up having a lot of financial data because my impression of like the finance industry is that the whole thing is run on like Excel spreadsheets.
Totally, yeah. Well, I think one thing that we're going to probably look at in the future is starting to get more real time-ish. So like I'm sure that like the not every not we're not going to scratch everybody's itch, but anybody who does any day trading or any kind of like any analysis, we've like yeah, yeah, I would say a third of our users are financial users, and um, yeah, like it's wild what you can do with the platform. Like yeah, like and that's somebody who used to work at a hedge fund. So
Right.
yeah, yeah,
So, like the way I understand it, like based on what you explained, is it's like an AI powered spreadsheet. You can ask it to do something, fetch data, like
yeah,
show visualization, stuff like that, right?
yeah. So we have tools. So Claude has skills um and tools, and OpenAI has functions, and so we've got a mishmash of all of those and MCP uh, in behind the scenes. So so each we've discovered that like we've got some generic kind of tools where we can execute any code like arbitrarily. So we've got like a Python executor and um, behind the scenes, and that's like a very generic thing. We've got a credential system which is very sophisticated, so you can connect to any system online. And so what we discovered was, by executing Python and connecting and credentialing to just say Gmail and sending an email through a spreadsheet, which is what we can do, can be quite good generically. But we discovered very shortly that by developing expert tools, so like we have like a Google Analytics tool and a Google Search Console tool, and so like we use this day to day to look at you know um, our attribution and our customers and our onboarding, all those kinds of things, and so um, by building these expert tools, we do have the capacity to fall back to like a generic executor, which can just execute whatever you want. But having something that specializes as a hedge fund manager and it looks at your risk portfolio is very different from just asking a chat, hey chat, please like help me invest in one of these companies. And so when you do ask a question to Sourcetable and it is around finance, typically you'll have um, about 30 or 40 different subspecialty tools that will go off, and they'll see who's doing insider trading on a particular stock, and it'll go look at global macro strategies, it'll look at your options um, risk, and it'll do like a long-term, short-term analysis and do technical analysis. And so it'll go through and actually do like 40 or 50 different things and look at the news. And so that's a very different experience from anything that might exist anywhere. Maybe in like a Bloomberg terminal with AI, you might be able to get away with something like that. But it's like what we're building is very, very, very different from what you might see in Excel or Google Sheets.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sounds a lot more than just spreadsheets.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, it just looks like a spreadsheet. Like
Yeah.
you can generate images. You can upload any arbitrary file. You can design chips inside Sourcetable. You can do an infinite amount of things with it. But it's we believe it's just the interface that everybody understands. So we're sticking with it for now. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So stepping back a little bit, we're gonna get back to Daft, of course, later. But
Yeah. Sure.
I'm curious how you came up with the idea in the first place.
Sure. So my co-founder Owen was working doing some contracting for some construction companies, and they were hired, or him and his friend were hired to just come in and just build spreadsheets, and generally those spreadsheets were combining different data sets, like basically doing for everybody else in the room there's probably a lot of technical people listening to this, basically learning how to do a join in SQL, but then using a spreadsheet to do it. So there's this thing called VLOOKUP, which for all those technical people, they may not know what VLOOKUP is, but it's sort of like a join in SQL, and you can combine two different disparate data sources with that. And the original idea was to really help people manage and wrangle and to be able to see and look into their data and do that for everyone. So not just for people who have IT degrees or can read and write SQL or who know how to use VLOOKUP. It's just really just to create some system that can kind of connect to any piece of data in the world, any system in the world, and then make that accessible to everyone. And I think that was the original mission. And then, like before I started with the team, I was looking at Bart and a number of other pre OpenAI LLMs, and so we started getting on it very, very, very early. So like we were, like I think we were lucky to be the first spreadsheet to provide AI to the masses. So I think that's really put us ahead a long way, because I think we're definitely like 6 months to a year ahead of all of our competition. Yeah, even though the form factor looks the same, the sophistication and the accuracy that we have far like decimates our competition, which is nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then how did you end up getting, you said thousands of users?
So we've got thousands of users, and the reason why is I think we did a very good job of just going to market early and talking about ourselves. And we've Owen's very good at who's my co-founder CEO, Owen McMillan. He's very good at SEO, and I'm very good at experimentation. So I think between the two of us, we're actually quite good at going to market. So we're growing, I think it's around 70% month on month, at present, which is, it's great for a startup. So, we won't be happy until we have a huge chunk of the 2 billion user market. But, yeah, no, we're kicking along.
That's very cool. And like from those users, what's the data look like?
The data, yeah, like we're still very young. We're still working out bugs in the system, which is kind of cute as well. Like, we had uh we underestimated how many people would want to use Sourcetable from outside of America. And so we spent the better part of 2 weeks last month just improving Stripe and our ability to work with different types of cards around the world. Because we ran into a bit of a wall where we were getting 3DS problems with Visa and we're getting intermittent payment problems with Stripe because Stripe, as good as it is, um, doesn't provide the like it's not like a one-click purchase for a lot of the people outside of the States. And we're still dealing with some transactions not enabled by different banks and different things, and like a lot of that's within Stripe, but I don't know what else we would use. But we're still going through the machinations of being a startup and adapting to our new users, which is fun. So yeah.
Cool. Like, how much data do you deal with?
So that's an interesting question. So we built Sourcetable along with the promise from Eventual to deal with petabyte scale, and that's something that we are very much interested in the future. That said, we have a very basic commercial requirement right now, and that I think our competition supports 10 megabytes or 20 megabyte files, which is Google Sheets and Excel. And so initially, I wanted us to be able to go to market with 2 gigabytes per person. I think we started off with one, but then we quickly moved to two. And so I don't know if you've seen there's like a pretty big example in the community where you can look at taxi cab data in New York. I was like, well, I want to be the first, spreadsheet that can kind of deal with that scale of data and not necessarily the petabyte scale. However, in the future, definitely like the reason why we did choose Daft is so that we can scale to petabytes and charge for it in the future. But everybody, it's different from like commercializing something that anybody who wants to use the platform can do this thing, if you know what I mean. So, um, yeah, like I think that's probably a challenge that most startups have. Like resources and resource constraints and costs are pretty huge for all of us. Especially as models can take up to 600 gigabytes. Like you don't always necessarily want to or have to or be in a position where you're having to deal with a single thread going through the 600 gigabyte pipeline, and then choking the resources for your other customers or have to pay for you know many hundreds of thousands of those. And so uh, while we are looking forward to dealing with petabytes of information, our initial requirement is to deal with thousands of users dealing with gigabytes of data, which is it's kind of the different it's like a different focus, but it's still the same amount of
Right.
of data, if you know what I mean. So yeah,
Yeah, I mean that doesn't seem that bad, but earlier you mentioned you had trouble with DuckDB.
we still do. We still do. Um, but like I love Duck. I think it's wonderful. It's allowed us to do incredible things. And you know, like detaching a database in a production system still causes segmentation faults on the processes and threads that we're running. So like that bug hopefully has been fixed. But like there are still things being found. It's still a new it's a burgeoning product, and every one of our customer gets um the ability to call Daft from our side, and also has the ability to spin up a Duck instance and has ability to connect to you know thousands of things, and we do use Duck for that, but we've found that uh Eventual and Daft has definitely been more reliable. So in terms of data ingestion, uh yeah, I think for the last year and a half, I think was the last bug that we had in Daft or something. I think we were one of the first commercial customers, slash GitHub users of Daft and Eventual. So like, uh, yeah, I've been amazed at how responsive Jay has been and the rest of the team, and how quickly they were able to fix bugs, and also like how durable it's been since those bugs were fixed. Like I've never had any issue, um, which is unusual, and and I think that's also why I'm excited to be able to support you guys and have a chat today, because I think where you find something that's of that high quality, and you have peers that you respect, you wanna help them out, and so yeah, um, excited to help you guys out and be a support for you guys wherever I can.
Yeah, I mean that's great to hear, and um, I mean super happy to hear that. It so just going back to the your earlier point, it sounds like a big part of your decision to go with Daft is like reliability and DX.
Yeah, and I think also like long-term strategy. Like Duck is probably not ever going to like branch out beyond the memory constraints. Like I would be very surprised unless they do like a rewrite. So like unless you're going to be on a single machine, which I think is going to be like fine for, I think all of our customers apart from X, dot dot dot, or um, whatever it might be. But those customers in that space um, are probably gonna pay for access to um that data, which I think which is goes along with our strategy at present to start with consumers, and then get a name for ourselves, and then over time we'll extend and expand. But I'm expecting that we're not going to have to do any more work to start processing 100,000 times more data, which is really what I'm expecting us um to deal with. And and I think that part of our workloads are probably going to be mixed models. And so like I'm sure we're going to be working at developing custom models with people's data, and then adding those and mixing those. And so like I do believe that while there are you know there are 3 or 4 companies that dominate and monopolize useful LLMs, I feel like that's gonna just disappear over time. So I think like obviously there's OpenAI, Anthropic. I'm sure Microsoft's gonna get into the game. Google, like I'm surprised to see Facebook drop off so badly, but Grok, another Grok. But I feel like the open source world slash, I think, more cost effective, like the K2s and the R1s and all of the other companies that are building some of the, I would say, most exciting democratized models. Um, I feel like once we're in a position to compact some of those, which I'm sure will start happening over the next 6 to 12 months, we'll start getting similar accuracies. Like I think from our perspective, people are like, oh, like AI is a money pit. But I think from Claude 3.5 is when we really started getting reliable responses. And to be honest, it hasn't changed too much since then. Which is it's almost like a year since, I guess, since that's come out. And people are like, oh, you're always going to want the new model, and I think that might be the case. But I think that um, as we grow, I think people are probably going to want to get more sophisticated with their own data. So like, um, you got the generalized models, but I'm not actually sure whether this time next year, uh, the generalizable models will be any better at you know specific tasks for a specific business. And so I've got friends in San Francisco who are just working on almost like micro models, which are just doing one small task, and then they're creating thousands of them, and then they're doing them kind of at scale. I wouldn't be surprised if like there could be a mixture of LLMs and these kind of micro tasks. Um, Especially because I think more sophisticated businesses are probably going to not want to share their data or pass their data onto OpenAIs, and have to update their privacy um agreements every other month. Which is which happens when you're dealing with startups. And so like, can we use your data? And you're like, no. Can you use can you use your data? Like, no. And so like I'm sure that there's a huge amount of data which people are storing inside the older companies, which which are going to end up paying for a lot of the new development. And I'm sure that that's yeah, I'm sure that's on the cards. So yeah.
So earlier you mentioned, DuckDB, and then you talked about like how you see Daft. Did you see or did you consider any alternatives?
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. Like I think there are about 30 or 40 that I looked at before settling on Duck and Daft. Yeah, I mean technically we do support more. So we do support, Iceberg and Glue and um there's a whole suite of data lakes and like like I think we basically went through everything. Like we started off before I actually joined the team, the initial engineer who was part of the team worked with some kind of Microsoft solution. To be honest, I think I blanked it out. It was so bad. Um, Only one person at one time could use the database, and I was like, oh god. So we've gone through at least one data lake, uh, but you know we we looked at the the typical the snowflakes and the HDFS and and Spark and we went through quite a lot before settling on Daft. Yeah, and yeah, we're very happy that we have because yeah, we have very very fast access to quite a lot of data, and that data is going to exponentially increase over time. Yeah, and I think
Uh,
the response is probably going to be pretty linear based on our initial tests. So
right.
yeah,
Cool.
and you can't get that anywhere like else. I don't know. I don't know. Like I don't know if there's probably a lot. I don't know who's going to be listening to the video, but I don't know anybody who's used Spark before. You could wait 12 hours for a job to run.
Right.
Like you could definitely do that in probably a couple of seconds with Daft. So yeah, it's kind of a no-brainer. Yeah.
What kind of job are you talking about?
We used to run analytics queries on our users for a company that I used to work at, and really simple. But we would get out of memory constraint errors, and would like we would it was quite horrible. Run it on the cluster machines. It should have fit in those machines. Um, Still would break and still would take hours and hours and hours. And the amount of data wasn't a lot. It was like like it was under a terabyte probably. And it still took 12 hours and sometimes worked, sometimes didn't. So,
Right.
I think the whole game's changed in the last 10 years. I think, yeah, very, very different.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Um, and what kind of jobs do you run like with Daft recently? Is it analytics or?
Well, Daft is part of our production stack. So we're not, we don't do like um, well, technically we did with our old version. So our old version, we had like an ETL or an ELT pipeline, and we would download people's databases and then put them online, or like inside S3, and then we'd use Daft to then access that. But I think most of our systems we still have access to that, but we've kind of like paused that for now. But generally, all of our systems used to use that and still use that, but we're kind of accessing data live now, and so people can kind of download. If you've got gigabytes of data, you can download it to your local file system and then access it, and then Daft will be responsible for going and getting it, and then looking at it and exposing it, and then we'll write queries against that, and then we'll mix that with Duck depending on what kind of data source it is and what kind of plugins, because the plugin like I like not to put shade on Duck. Duck is wonderful, and they've got a wonderful plugin and community. Uh, we've got lovely community plugins, and a great community. So like there's I would say there's 60 to 100 different plugins you can use, and I'm sure that the Daft work that you guys are working on too is very similar too, because you can like build directly in. But that wasn't around when I first started using Daft, so that's probably one of the reasons why we chose to use Duck as well. So yeah,
So those plugins.
Huh? They do plugins, yeah, and great ones too. So, yeah, we use, I would say that we use 30 or 40 different plugins.
Okay. You said that's one of the reasons why you still use Duck, right?
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why we still use Duck. And then that community is still evolving too. So that's interesting. So, well, I think it might be easier to develop on Daft to do that now. I think that we can just leverage those plugins right now from Duck. So
Right.
yeah, yeah.
Those are like data source plugins.
They're not just data source plugins; they're also analytical plugins as well. So like, there's some really interesting plugins. Like you can connect to. They believe that you can connect to MySQL, I think, faster than MySQL can connect to itself almost. Using one of their plugins because I think that they rewrote some binary protocol stuff. So there's there's really amazing things that they've done with the data connectors, but there's also like how to like geospatial analyzers and different type of data sketcher analyzers and like there's quite a lot of things there. And yeah, it's I wouldn't say it's easy to write a plugin. I've written a plugin to Cassandra, um, and I don't know if I'd do it again. But yeah, no, like there is a great there's a great number of cool plugins that you can use, and I think it's going to grow because I think that they've got that whole like market down pat. They've got like early developers want to just hack around on their machines. Um, like I don't think that like yeah I think like I mentioned that like once you get past a single machine you're going to run into trouble, but for those people who are kind of starting and running things and want to connect to things um and in general like we do a lot of queries against it using Postgres, um because Postgres and Duck are like I think they basically took the Postgres uh lexical engine or whatever it is and then another parsing engine and then they made it their own and they've just kind of extended bits and pieces to it. So um because of that, it does work generally pretty well with LLMs. Like we write SQL against it, pretty regularly. So, but yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
So with all of that, I'm curious, like what the current data stack looks like for you.
The current data stack. So yeah, we have a lot going on. What in particular did you want to know? Because like we've got Daft at the bottom layer, which like basically runs every single query and collects data and um like it's responsible for all for anything that touches our system that's data related. Daft is kind of at the bottom, and then Daft hands data on as an option to Duck whenever we need it. Um, and then we have like a virtual machine that we wrote in house, loosely based on Linux namespaces. And then that can then coordinate with all of that information, including external information through we use data frames and where appropriate input files like if somebody's uploaded a CSV. We use Parquet files. We use Iceberg for definitions and Glue for like leftover and support of Fivetran. So yeah, that's something that we moved away from. We're no longer doing a lot of work with Fivetran just because I think we realized that we can do a lot of stuff more real time because of the infrastructure that we have
Right.
now. So like we're like because we've got all of these kind of like very fast access systems to S3 and Daft can hoover all this stuff up. No matter what we put in there, we don't need like an ETL pipeline anymore, which is kind of weird if you think about it. And the only things that probably are out of that reach aren't really of concern to us yet. So like there's some things which ETL is good at, which is like, for example, HubSpot. I think one of our customers had millions and millions and millions of rows, and then HubSpot would only let them export 100 rows per minute or something. And so you really need a job to go to do stuff in the background. I'm sure it's not 100, but yeah, we did run into issues like that with one or two clients. But I think in general, like the Hoover approach has really worked for us because everything's real time now. And so we've moved away from ETL to predominantly just supporting real time, and we'll probably end up supporting ETL again more in the future, but it's not our priority right now.
Interesting. You said Hoover approach?
Hoover. Oh, like suck up all this data. Yeah, yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Cool.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. I should say what's the I should say Dyson, not Hoover. Hoover's old name.
Oh, nice on approach.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So for the HubSpot example, what did you end up doing? Do you have like a cron job or something?
We do like for that client, we still have that ETL, but it's not something that we're not advertising Fivetran anymore, and only for specific clients do we, um, well, I show them the area in the app where they can click on the thing that allows them to do the Dyson or to do the ETL, which isn't real time, but I think I mean honestly, the vast amount of our clients, like we've never had any issues. I think we've had like one issue and tens of thousands of clients
Oh, okay.
with real time access. So yeah.
Yeah, I think I kind of realized we need to go a little bit higher level first. Like,
Sure.
does everything live in AWS for you?
Does everything live in AWS? Generally, yes. Everything lives in AWS. I mean, like we had to do one move from Azure, and we've got some services in Google and the GCP, but generally everything that we've got lives on AWS. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And honestly, one of the reasons for us choosing AWS was because of Daft and S3 and
Oh,
like and all of the good things. And so we could have set up something similar ourselves, but yeah, like in terms of like time to market, that was the obvious choice for us. Yeah.
right. So do you store pretty much all your data in S3 then?
Yeah, a lot of it. Yeah.
I guess
The rest of it is in Cassandra, I would say. So all of our OTP, like online transactional stuff, is in Cassandra. Because I worked with it a lot in the past, and I think it's one of the few things which scale, and have scaled, uh, which I've tested. I've tested a lot, and I'm surprised that some systems that I've tried that have say that they can scale, they can't. So it's like one of those things where I don't do this very often, but once every few years I get my hands dirty and I'll test everything in the market. I'll be like, okay, well, which one of these things is going to break, and which one's going to.
right. Yeah, it's interesting that you're going with Cassandra because I would have imagined like SQL-based solutions might be able to scale, but
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think one of my, I mean, like a few years ago, I had to build a system where a million people can currently use the system, which is a hard problem to solve. And the only system that I would have trust back then is Cassandra, and it's still like it's a no-brainer. I did a short look before starting with Sourcetable, and it was like, oh, this, like, at the time, InfluxDB, I think, had just come out, and I did some small tests on InfluxDB, and it choked at very low transaction volumes, like extraordinarily low. And Cassandra was fine, and I was like, whoa, like,
right.
and yeah, so like, yeah, and Cassandra is introducing, um, transactions this year, and also has, I think they were one of the first databases to support vector databases too, or like vector columns. So,
Nice.
so it was like it's still edgy, and it's also dependable. And I think for me, like if there's one thing you do in business, you got to be reliable. You can't
Right.
bugger up. So, yeah,
Right.
Cassandra is still my weapon of choice. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
So not MySQL, not Postgres.
No, yeah, no, no.
Okay.
I mean, maybe Postgres at some point, but I still use it for other smaller projects. But it's not something that I would use for infinite scale. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Like it's not designed for it. So yeah,
Do you have Cassandra in AWS or elsewhere?
we do. We've got Cassandra in AWS, but it's kind of a nice thing too that you can put it wherever you want, and then you can start setting up into data center clusters, and Um, yeah, I think it's, I think it might be the only database that I know of in the world that's, I think Apple runs, what is it, a million machine cluster or 100,000 machine cluster of Cassandra nodes. It's like, I've never heard of anything like that for Postgres, anything like that. So,
Yeah.
so it's like, well, you may as well get good at the thing that's going to work. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah. But it's a huge learning curve though. And anybody who's come from like fourth normal forms and, all that kind of, SQL nerdy stuff, like coming into a Cassandra, it's a, I shouldn't say this, but it's a brain.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, total. Yeah.
So it sounds like S3, Cassandra, and Daft are weapons of your choice, pretty much.
Yeah, for sure.
A little
For
bit.
sure. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Um,
And we've got a lot of, and we've got a lot of interlang like different language stuff. We've got a lot of WASM on the front end. We've got a lot of, yeah. Got a lot of cool stuff in the back end too, but mostly Python. We've got a bit of Go, but mostly Python, I think, is our stack. Ray, I think is I shouldn't leave out Ray. Ray's been very important for us as well. Ray's been very important for us as well, and like it manages a lot of the workloads and GPUs and jobs and schedulers and like online processes for us, and I think there's a wicked combination between all of these for sure that I would recommend to anybody who's starting a serious new startup for sure.
Cool. So I think I want to try to spend the rest of the time to make a little diagram here.
All right, mate. Yeah.
I wanted to start with basically data. So you got S3.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make it larger and I think zoom in, and then Cassandra. And I think this can be just kind of high level. Doesn't have to be like super technically detailed, I don't think.
Yeah. That's fine.
Put a circle here. So I'm thinking of this like as a data layer.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you kind of
that's fine, mate.
if it's
Sounds good.
it. And then on the processing layer, you have Daft. Seems like it's the main thing. And I would imagine like a little bit is Duck. So maybe like here.
Yeah.
So I'll just do DuckDB. There's Duck and DuckDB, right? I'm not sure what the difference is exactly.
Oh, they're the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
There's Mother Duck and then there's Duck.
Right. Mother Duck and Duck.
So Mother Duck is like an online version of, like, how like I don't know, like there's like online services where you can connect to Postgres or MySQL, like Supabase.
Right.
Supabase is like Mother Duck.
Right. Duck,
Whereas Duck is just the database itself.
right.
Yeah.
So Duck is like Postgres.
Yeah.
I'll just put everything in AWS here. And you have some stuff like, I guess on the side, Azure, and I'll just do that. Azure, GCP.
Yeah, I wouldn't even include them, mate. We don't really use them. Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
And I guess Ray, I'm not sure where to put it, but this, you say it's for GPU.
Ray's like the whole app, so I would say the whole thing is Ray. Like I would leave that whole box as
like that,
right.
Like AWS and Ray.
Yeah.
So Ray's for, you said GPUs, schedulers, I think.
Schedulers, cache, like a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah.
Cache too?
Yeah.
Cool. I'll just show that. I'm not sure what else to put here. You say you used to have Fivetran, but not anymore.
I mean, you could put I mean, you could put function in there if you wanted to, but yeah, or
Right.
maybe just ETL or something, because we do technically still have ETL, but it's not really a priority of ours right now.
So I'm trying to understand kind of the flow of the data. Like
Yeah.
users upload data and they create spreadsheets and they go into S3 and Cassandra, right?
Yeah, so the app, people would put their data into S3, or we would get it for them. Uh,
Got it.
and whether it's and even if it's online, so if even if it's real time, we still push it to S3, and then we hit it with Daft. Yeah.
Real time online. So they go into S3
Yeah. And it's also offline as well. So it's like real time, online, offline. Yeah.
offline,
Yeah.
like uploaded data.
So it's like both. So like they can choose to upload it, or we can get it for them, or it can be historic data. So I would say that that's you can call it
Right.
nearline or offline. I don't know. Like I don't know what you want to call it, but yeah.
Right.
Whereas yeah, Cassandra is more like OLTP. Sorry. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess it's like that. And then um, I guess queries will go in here. I would imagine like depending on the query, it goes to either Daft or Duck.
Everything goes to Daft, and then sometimes
Oh
it
yeah.
goes to Duck. Yeah, yeah. So Daft
Uh,
will be responsible for giving Duck the data, if that makes sense.
oh, interesting.
Yeah,
So,
because DuckDB is so unreliable that we had to do it that way.
oh wow. So it's
Yeah,
almost like, let me see if I can draw it properly. So
yeah,
it's almost like that,
yeah,
where,
yeah. It's more like
where,
that. Yeah, yeah. It's
wow.
more like inside. Yeah, yeah. And then,
So I'll just
but
put
but the queries that we run once Daft gets it, will go directly to DuckDB. So it's maybe a little bit more query. It's a bit more. It's a bit more complicated.
right.
Yeah.
Uh, I hope this is accurate enough. So like that. It's interesting the way you structured it.
Well, we had to. We
Right.
didn't, we didn't have any other choice.
Right.
Unfortunately, it's because Daft was very reliable, and so we needed to get the data into Dart, and the only way that we could do that is if we passed it from Daft to Dart, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, yeah. So okay, so query is going here, and then Daft decides, okay, let's query into
Into Dart, yeah,
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 S3,
exactly, yeah,
and then
oh yeah.
yeah,
Which is
then
cool because then now we can use the best parts of Daft and Dart.
right.
Yeah,
Oh, so you're saying Daft is great at like I guess extracting data from S3, and then
yeah,
that goes for processing that sometimes.
yeah, exactly, yeah, yeah,
Okay, I guess I can add that here.
yeah.
I'll
And so
say
and because we use like we use our own kind of SQL parser.
right.
Um, well, like a dub probably doesn't matter who we call in the future, whether it's Daft or Duck, but whether we end up taking Duck back out of the picture or like it's. I think we're kind of pretty agnostic right now, but we need Daft, and and we also need Duck as well. To be fair, so
Right.
yeah,
Very cool.
yeah,
I'll just do it this way,
yeah,
like that. Slightly bigger, I think.
yep,
Nice.
yep.
Queries, we're talking about like SQL,
Okay, so
Python.
we've got our own SQL engine,
Okay.
uh, which can
Like,
query anything. Which can query anything. It's weird. So like we build our own thing, so we can create tables and files and S3 files, and we can query the internet even. Like you can query literally
right.
anything. Yeah, yeah.
That sounds almost like Daft a little bit.
A little bit, a little bit. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
we did the same thing. I think, yeah. But I think what we'll end up doing is we'll probably end up moving some of that to Daft. I think. I mean, some of it's very specific for us because we've got tables within sheets, and so like we've got workbook stuff that we need to query. So it's not just sorry, the tables that I mentioned there aren't just tables. They're like worksheets and workbooks, and if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it makes sense.
So you can query like this workbook dot this worksheet dot, you know, query between A to Z in this sheet note.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of thing.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So one last thing I want to add here is I'm guessing like user right like AI queries or I guess code. I'm not sure like spreadsheet queries.
I'd say universal. Yeah, universal queries.
Universal queries.
I'd say users write universal queries,
Okay.
which include yeah, yeah,
Natural language.
yeah, or which
Script.
gets converted to SQL. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Converted to SQL.
yeah.
And
And
then
then they support like tables, files, workbooks, worksheets, internet search queries, like everything. Yeah, yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So the user says, I want data from this source, like HubSpot or this.
Exactly. And then it goes da, 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 and it goes off to that kind of partition. Just say, and then Daft will go and get that partition and then provide that for whatever like that's like getting the table and then
Right.
we could query into that table, but then we can also query the internet like that or a service like that, or like when we go to Google Analytics, we go off and we get Google Analytics tables from like Google real time, and then we mix it with their own internal data, which we've got stored in S3. Does that make sense?
Uh, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's basically like a universal query engine for anything on the internet. Yeah,
Right.
running SQL. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
So you're saying like if this stuff is what if this stuff is asking for like outside sources that's not in S3, then does it go through Daft or
um, yes, it will. Yeah, yeah, it will because
okay.
everything goes through Daft. Yeah.
Right.
So like we will go and get stuff, and then we will write that stuff to S3, and then we'll process it with Daft and Duck. If that makes sense. So like everything gets written to S3. Yeah,
So I guess you
yeah,
you could have like
yeah.
uh,
Exception to that
okay.
is data frames, but like we can keep data frames, like we keep data frames in like our like persistent memory for conversation inside the LLM. But
Okay.
then that's I don't know if you want to include that or not. But yeah,
I think probably not for this one, but one
yeah.
thing I can include here is like you could, I think what you're saying is you could like fetch data from outside
Yeah,
and then put it in S3, kind of like that.
yeah, yeah,
Okay. I think this is really good. I hope it's accurate.
yeah. Something like that. Yeah.
Cool. This is really cool actually. Um, because when you said like everything goes through Daft, I wasn't quite sure what that
All right,
means.
mate. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, no, honestly, like I would love to keep up with you guys, but in terms of like adding more features and doing things too, because I can see that you guys are added a lot of features and connectors and extensions and all those types of things too. But I think that until we start investing in um, I think running models or model development for our clients, which I think is in the very short term horizon, but that's not something that we've concentrated on yet. So we've kind of like I think Duck was a bit more commercialized earlier than I think now you're catching up, and so
Yep.
I've got a feeling we'll start using both for like both equally as much soon. Yeah,
Sounds good.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, just quickly, I'm curious how we can improve Daft.
You can improve Daft.
Cool.
For the product wise, honestly, mate, it's bulletproof.
Wow.
Like I wouldn't like the based on how we use it so far. I have not seen I have not seen one bug for like 16 months, 12 months,
Wow.
which is great. Um,
That's
and I cannot say that about that. Like I'm
right.
still dealing with fatal, like, like machine, like I wouldn't say machine, but process shuts down, and then we can't, or like you can't have a process shut down in the middle of processing, right? So like that's still going on with us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I love I mean, no, I know, I think you guys are really approachable. I think, that's, I don't want to rag on Duck because I do love Duck as well, but it's just different. Those guys at Google, they're kind of like they've got a Google kind of ethos. They code like that. They're more worried about code visual quality than potential, fatal errors and stuff like that. Whereas,
Right.
I've checked stuff at Jay before, and he's like, yeah, let's just get it in. We've got to get it in because it's like, if we kind of something broken, and then they spend more time thinking about it, and they fix it, whatever. But I do love that kind of approach that you guys have, where it's just like, perfection first, and then other stuff later. So
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, I think you guys would do great.